Sometimes you have to flop severely before you can slay. Hopefully get started on Act 2. Hi! I just had a great call with my agent. It's about 10 now. I did some reading and now I'm gonna do some chores. I'll check back in about what I am going to do today. By the way, my name is Jake. I'm a traditionally published novelist. I write middle grade and young adult novels, and I'm currently for Camp NaNoWriMo working on an adult rom-com and revisions for my contracted middle grade fantasy. This will be the third draft, kind of fourth draft, and that's going to be a total overhaul. So I have a call with my editor next Wednesday and we're getting prepared for that. We have to be prepared with reading through the whole manuscript, ideas, maybe even some edits. And this is my parrot, Flan. He's a very sweet. Let's do some chores and then let's get to writing. Too much construction. I'm gonna go to a coffee shop quickly. My goals for while I'm at the coffee shop are write 1,000 words of my adult rom-com and plan out the next 9 scenes. If you saw yesterday, I did physical scene cards for my middle grade fantasy. Woo! Love hammering. Physical scene cards for my middle grade fantasy up to the catalyst, and that was 9 scenes. So I want to do another 9 scenes, which should take us to the break into Act 2. So let's go do that. By the way, I forgot to say it is 11 a.m. Stop hammering! As I've mentioned in other vlogs, I'm really an edit as you go type of person and also a pretty strict plotter. For this adult rom-com project, I've written a full synopsis that is way too long, like nearly 10,000 words, but it's really just for me and for my agent to get a better idea of the story. And so for my process, once I have that synopsis, I'll divide it and turn it into like a chapter by chapter outline and then expand those chapter by chapter outlines into beats. But I'll do that once I get to the actual chapter, so I still have some like intrigue and fun waiting for me. And I really do consider my synopsis to be sort of a 0 draft. So when I'm writing my first draft, I usually end up writing 2 to 3 drafts of each chapter. So by the time I finish a full quote unquote first draft, it's fairly clean. And I also have alpha readers give me notes as I go. And so then by the end, I really only need to do line and copy edits and edit for continuity. Like if I've added a new plot line later in the book and realize some of the plot lines are falling off, I'll remind myself what I need to do and go back and edit those at the beginning. So this process that I have does end up taking longer when I'm actually drafting, but it does save me time in the edits and it works for me. And it might not work for you. In fact, it probably won't. My advice is not prescriptive, nor is it really advice. It's just how I do stuff. Maybe it will inspire you. Maybe you'll hear this and think, that's terrible. I don't want to do that. And it will help you come up with your own way to write. And that's great. I wrote, 476 words of chapter 19, and that finished out the chapter. And then I read through the whole thing. And as you can maybe see in my journal, that took about half an hour. And then I have my computer read the chapter aloud. And through that process, I added about 300 words so that by the time the chapter is like complete and on the Word doc, I have read it through like 3 times. So I wrote 837 words, finishing off chapter 19. And I only have 496 words left to hit 1,333 words, which I'll work on later. So now I'm going to move on to writing out scene cards for my middle grade fantasy. So let's do it. am back from the cafe. It's about a little after 1:30 now, and I was there for 2.5 hours, and I did an hour of working on my adult rom-com. So I finished chapter 19 and wrote about 850 words, and then I did an hour and a half of working on re-outlining my middle grade fantasy, and I finished all 9 scene cards for the next 10% of Act 1. So I've finished re-outlining out Act 1. I'm going to look over that re-outline notes and write like beat sheets for each scene this afternoon, and then hopefully get started on Act 2. Hi! It's Thursday now. I have the meeting with my editor next Wednesday, so I have 5 days left to read through Act 2 and 3 and do the same re-outlining, so I can talk to her about that and have her answer my questions and run some thoughts by her. So yeah, I'm feeling good about what I did there. 2.5 hours of work. I'm gonna have some lunch now and then head to the library. The reason I went to the cafe at all is because on Wednesday and Thursday, the library doesn't open till noon, which is weird and not great library hours, but there's still construction happening. I know there's still construction happening, and Vaughn has to deal with the most of it. Hello, editing Jake here, just to say, clearly he's doing fine now. Okay, it is now 3. I did some editing on YouTube. I had some lunch. I read. I did a little yoga. And now let's go to the library to keep working on my middle grade fantasy restructure. See if I can really get a solid idea of what each scene is going to look like while I'm there. Okay, we are going to the library, but I literally forgot that I had put in laundry this morning and I have to move it to the dryer. Okay, now let's go to the library. Eee! Today is the first day in a while that has actually felt like a spring day in Seattle. It's been way too nice. I am returning this book to a little free library because I got what I needed from it, and I don't want to take the 5th book in a series away from a child who might want it. Hello, freaks. I have my absolute favorite atmospheric video on in the background, and I thought we'd have a cozy little night in. It's about 8:30 now. It's been a while since I last updated you. I left the library a little before 5 and did about an hour and a half of really productive read through and scene card updates of my middle grade fantasy. I made another breakthrough, but I think part of that is that it's really easy to have breakthroughs when like every single thing about your book needs to change. And so like at this point, a breakthrough is just like, oh, this is how I should have written it the whole time. But sometimes you have to flop severely before you can slay. I still want to write about 500 words of my adult rom-com, and we're starting a new chapter because we finished chapter 19 earlier. So we're starting chapter 20, math. Also, okay, so with the scene cards I'm making for my middle grade fantasy, I had 9 scenes for the catalyst, which my catalyst is at 10%. It can vary, but usually 10% is a good idea. So I was like, well, if Act 1 is 20% of the book, then we have to get 9 more scene cards. And I was like, 9 plus 9, 19? That was so rocks for brains of me. So just updating you, I do know 9 plus 9 is 18. Good thing my job is right and not math. Though I was in AP Calc, AB, not BC. If you know, you know. So let's do some adult rom-com writing. If I was really an aesthetic girly, I would light a candle, but Flan, my cat, would knock that candle over and start a big old fire. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna light a candle in our minds. It's like a birdhouse in your soul. So let's go do it. Do you ever just forget how to write dialogue? Okay, I've written 510 words of chapter 20. Let's update the Nano website. I did 510. I felt pretty dang great about it. I was writing at home. I was writing computer, update progress. We have 5542 out of 5333. So there you have it, a cozy little day of writing. Do you like this angle too? A cozy little day of writing. Thank you for joining me. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow for the 5th day of Camp NaNoWriMo when we get to do this all again.